Lord Mackay of Clashfern, Lord Chancellor, Britain's leading lawmaker, is today himself in the dock, catalyst of a religious split. He is charged by his church, the Free Presbyterian Church of Scotland, with attending a Roman Catholic funeral mass. And this is the man who has taken the Lord Chancellor to task, a pension fund clerk and Free Presbyterian elder.
Lord Mackay should never have been interfered with in the path of duty, and it was a positive Christian act to attend the funerals of colleagues, whether there was a mass or not.
It was for the simple duty of paying his respects to a dead colleague that Lord Mackay fell foul of his church. For that colleague was John Wheatley, High Court Judge, Lord Justice Clerk, and a Roman Catholic.
They decided that I should be suspended from the office of the eldership and from sealing ordinance, that's from communion, for a period of 6 months. I did nothing to indicate anything in the way of agreement with the particular doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church, but I went there purely for the purpose of paying respect to my dead colleague and to give a public expression of sympathy to his relatives.
This is the Lancashire town of Barnoldswick, eye of the Free Presbyterian Storm, home to an 8-strong congregation of church members who worship in this former telephone exchange. Outraged, they complained, and Lord Mackay was barred from communion. Elsewhere, there's admiration.
He is, I think, without a doubt, intellectually the highest ranking Lord Chancellor, I would say, there has been in this century. As Dean of Faculty, which was how most Scots lawyers remember him best, he was extremely approachable and very, very friendly, particularly to people just starting off in the profession.
James Mackay was born 61 years ago in the Sutherland village of Scurry. Son of a railway signalman, he graduated with honours from Edinburgh University, was called to the bar in 1955 and 10 years later took silk. A judge in 1984, the following year a law lord, he was appointed 18 months ago Lord Chancellor. It was from this Highland background that Lord Mackay inherited his Free Presbyterian faith. The Free Presbyterian Church was formed out of the Free Church, splitting from it in 1893 on an interpretation of the Westminster Confession of Faith. The Free Presbyterians wanted to stay with the unadulterated Calvinistic Confession of Faith. The Free Church said otherwise, and the two groups parted. The late Robert W. Forsyth, a draper, is the man responsible for the well-groomed state of the church's finances. The store owner's bequests to the church are valued today at almost £3 million. Out with Scotland, this wealthy church, with but 6,000 members in its homeland, is to be found in strength in Zimbabwe, where it has a long-established and active mission. There is a busy primary school, a secondary school with 450 pupils, and a hospital. New churches are being built, and there are plans to carry the word into Malawi and Kenya. The harvest in Africa is plenteous, but the labourers few. And in Africa, as in Scotland, the Church, strictly Calvinist, finds its answers in the Westminster Confession of Faith.
For instance, somebody comes to me and says to me, what is the Free Presbyterian view of the Word of God? Well, I can point to the Confession of Faith and say, there it is. What is the Free Presbyterian view on justification? There it is. But if somebody goes to the Church of Scotland minister and says, what's the Church of Scotland view about this? Well, they say, well, depends what you think the fundamental is. I mean, you don't know. That's plain fact of the matter.
Among the declarations made in the Westminster Confession of Faith is that Christ will only save the elect, and that Mass is injurious to Christ. It further states that the Pope is a man of sin.
Your attitude to the Church of Rome is, to say the least, chilly.
Chile, oh yes, it's not merely Chile, it is, we're in protest against it.
How do you describe it?
Well, we regard the Church of Rome and the religion that it practices as a perversion of Christianity. And that is simply the view of the Reformers. The expression is often used with regard to us that we are extreme Protestants, but that is not correct. We are just Protestants who stop.
How would you describe the Pope?
Well, the Westminster describes the Pope as the Antichrist, the man of sin and the son of perdition. That's what it describes him, because that is the scriptural description of this power that was to rise in the history of the Christian Church, and we, along with the Reformers, regard him as such.
The confessed Free Presbyterian view of the Church of Rome. Lord Mackay, in attending Lord Wheatley's funeral, was courting the son of perdition. The high moral ground in Barnoldswick, though few locals are aware of it, is occupied by Free Presbyterian elder Roy Middleton, a father of three, a man with a mission.
Really, as far as the whole Church of God is concerned, we have an enormous task of evangelizing the world. So we're here in England not just to speak to expatriate Scots. We're here to evangelize Barnoldswick.
This small congregation has its origins in simple prayer meetings in front rooms and the discovery of the Westminster Confession of Faith as the truth and the light. At first, the Free Presbyterian Church was unknown.
We asked ourselves, well, is this going on anywhere else? Is this actually going on somewhere in the world? And so we also wanted copies of the confession. And so that we found out that it was actually distributed by the Free Presbyterian Church of Scotland. And so we met them, and we found that they actually believe these things, and that and so in 1977 we identified ourselves with them.
You were presumably not just delighted, but possibly slightly surprised to find that you weren't a group in isolation.
Exactly right, yes. That's exactly right. It was really very encouraging finding a church that was actually faithful to the Word of God. It was extremely encouraging to us.
The chastening of the Lord Chancellor made national news. Barnoldswick's local paper misses little. However, on this occasion...
Well, the first we heard of it, quite honestly, was when we began to get telephone calls from national newspapers and television and so on, asking us if we could give them any information concerning this man. And quite frankly, I'd never heard of him. I thought I knew almost everyone in Barnoldswick, having lived and worked around there for close on 40 years, but this man had slipped my net. I scarcely knew of the existence of the church, and in fact, had it not been immediately next to the filling station that I use, I doubt whether I would have known that it existed.
We got visits from the press, certainly, yes, which I was quite determined that as really the whole business was actually sub judice, it would be quite inappropriate for me to speak to the press.
Did they ask you to explain your stand and position, which presumably is not a matter covered by the sub judice ruling that you mentioned?
They did, but I was unprepared to make any comment on that, as I am now, really.
Thus, do the folk of Barnoldswick, marked for salvation, know the Free Presbyterians only as narrow?
Yes, they do. We are viewed as being rather strict because of our views, say, on the Sabbath and Christmas and this sort of thing.
Has that led to any conflict here?
Led to any conflict? Well, the only major conflict we have with the other churches is really theological. I mean, they don't believe the Bible, most of them.
The Barnoldswick complaint against Lord Mackay was prosecuted from Glasgow, but the Reverend Donald MacLean supported a successful move for suspension from communion and eldership. Against this, Lord Mackay is appealing, but he stands not alone in his travail with the FP Church.